new guidance is the most confusing and misunderstood guidance ever put out by EPA. And anyone who's read EPA guidance before knows that's saying a lot. Most of the comments I read on the guidance tell me that people really don't understand it. They don't realize that it's not defining any new laws or any new rules. It's just the way it is. And to understand that, you need to understand FIFRA. FIFRA stands for the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, Rodenticide Act. It was originally passed in 1947, and it works in conjunction with FFDCA, which is the Drug Cosmetic Act, which runs FDA and food. The reason is EPA has to set tolerances, so that's why they also have a part of FFDCA. 58 is notable because that's when the infamous Delaney Clause was added. The Delaney Clause, some of you probably remember, said nothing that causes cancer can be in food, which in 1958 sounded pretty good. But as our technology got better, we found out everything causes cancer. Even trace levels of materials were prohibited from being used as an insecticide or pesticide. Funny side there, of course, Delaney tried for several years to get this amendment through unsuccessfully until he enlisted Gloria Swanson, who was a very food safety activist who convinced the senators' wives their husbands should vote for the bill. 1988 saw FIFRA re-registration come into being. Up until now, some of the old pesticides, they had done 3 studies on them. So the idea with those amendments was that from now on, every pesticide had to be up to current standards. So every 15 years now, you have to re-register or re-review the pesticide. 1996 came along, we got rid of the Delaney Clause, went to risk-based analysis. And so all pesticides are regulated under this law, including plant growth regulators. Well, what is the FIFRA definition of a pesticide? We don't care what the Merriam-Webster definition is. All we care about is how the law defines it. If FIFRA said a pesticide is any product with 2 L's and is colored purple, then we would regulate any product with 2 L's and is colored purple as a pesticide. So FIFRA defines pesticide as any substance or mixture of substances intended on preventing, destroying, repelling, or mitigating any pest. Or any substance or mixture of substances intended for use as a plant regulator, defoliant or desiccant, and a nitrogen stabilizer. Nitrogen stabilizer under FIFRA is very narrow. They're basically looking for any chemical that affects a bacteria's ability to fix nitrogen. So it wouldn't necessarily be a slow-release product. It has to affect the bacteria. So why would they regulate plant regulators? These things help plants grow. Well, anyone who ever worked with ALAR, Diminizide, or works with hydrogen cyanamide, Dormix, knows these are can be very dangerous products. And they need to be regulated and watched. Now, Congress was trying to be very careful here. They didn't want to get involved regulating fertilizers too. So they set up a set of amendments or exemptions to the plant regulator rule. I know it's a lot of words. I'm just going to read the important ones. So basically, plant regulator, as defined by FIFRA section 2B, means any substance or substances intended to physiological action for accelerating or retarding growth, maturation, or otherwise altering behavior of plants. And we see this with the EPA's rules, in the rules where they talk about if you make the plant grow faster, if it has stronger roots, or if it has stronger leaves, or if it has bigger fruit. In other words, action on the plant. And what we're going to skip out of here are anything that affects the soil around the plant, anything that improves the soil or makes it easier to take up nutrients. That's the stuff they're exempting here. And we see plant nutrients, nutritional chemicals, plant inoculants. And here's the best part, plant regulators shall not be required to include any of those nutrient mixtures or soil amendments commonly known as vitamin, hormone, horticultural products, intended for improvement, maintenance, survival, health, propagation of plants, and are not for plant destruction, are non-toxic, non-poisonous in their packaged form, basically in the box. So that sounds great. Okay, that sounds really great. It's like, all right, we're good, right? Our biostimulants, our hormones, they're exempt from registration under FIFRA, because we can claim anything we want. Unfortunately, even though when we were all kids, we watched Schoolhouse Rock and we learned how a bill becomes a law, it's not the end here. This is now taken and it's put into the US Code, pretty much just like this. And then from the US Code, it goes into the Code of Federal Regulations. Well, why is that? Because these bills tend to be vague. It might say speeding is a crime, but it won't tell you what constitutes speeding. So that's what the Code of Federal Regulations does. That's the instruction book that the federal agencies abide by to determine how the laws are carried out. And if you talk to the EPA and you ask them a regulatory question, they will usually quote you a section from the Code of Federal Regulations on where they got their ruling or why they're doing it. It's a huge set of volumes. Volume 40, parts 150 to 189, are essentially the EPA's way of carrying out FIFRA and how it's been coded. So let's take a look at the Code of Federal Regulations. Always exciting. Okay, so what I'm going to look at are the sections where they define these exemptions. Okay, so we have a plant nutrient product consisting of macronutrients or micronutrient trace elements necessary for normal growth in a form rarely used by plants, a fertilizer. So they're saying, okay, that's a nutrient product. A plant inoculant product consisting of microorganisms and help the availability or uptake of nutrients. In other words, you add those good bacteria and they help the soil get loose and better nutrient uptake, all focused on nutrient uptake. Soil amendment, sort of the same thing. The purpose of improving soil characteristics, like we've been talking about many of the things here, certainly fits the definition of these amendments or inoculants and are exempt. I want to go back to this again. This was directly out of FIFRA. They tell the plant regulator shall not be required to include any of these nutrient mixtures or soil amendments known as vitamin, hormone, horticultural products, intended for improving health, blah, 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 and are non-toxic, non-poisonous in the package. Now, when this is translated to the Code of Federal Regulations, they have our title consisting of plant hormones, nutrients, innocuants, is not a regulator, provided it meets the following criteria. And here's where I was talking about how the code gets more specific. The FIFRA says it's non-toxic. Well, what's non-toxic? Water is toxic. People die from drinking water. So here, they define it. They say it has to be category 3 or 4. The EPA has 4 categories of toxicity. 1 and 2 are either highly toxic to moderately toxic. 3 and 4 are essentially slightly toxic to practically non-toxic. So they're saying it has to be 3 and 4. Awesome. And the product is not intended for use on food crops. Why? That's not in FIFRA. Somewhere between FIFRA, and it's not in the US code either. But when it was written into the rule book for EPA, suddenly all these things can't be used on food. If that one sentence, jump ahead here. If that one sentence is removed, greater than 70% of these are done. They're fine. That is the only thing, and it's not in FIFRA. So you can go by a Federal Register notice. It doesn't have to go through congressional approval. Someone could just put it in the Federal Register, not a person, but a congressman, send it out for approval for the 60-day comment period, and it can become law. But as long as that's in there, that pushes everything out. Right? That's the first part of the guidance, and that's where they talk about the claims. You see all their claims. Anything physiological is a growth regulator claim. And so, now how come you have claims and you have ingredients, and they're both illegal? Well, that comes in here. And the slide is all apart. But basically, you're selling a legal product if the product is considered a pesticide if it makes claims to that effect. Well, we've already seen growth regulators are pesticides. So if you make a claim of accelerating growth, accelerating germination, producing better fruit, those are, and you don't have any tie-in to nutrient uptake, you're making a regulator claim, you're selling an illegal pesticide. All right, you contain a substance of no other commercial value. You don't make any claims, but you add indobutyric acid. You know that's going to accelerate the growth. It's in there, that's an illegal product. Person distributes has knowledge will be used as a pesticide. You take your material, I add seaweed to it. I say, well, the seaweed's to help the bacteria in the soil grow. You know it has cytokinin in it, and you know it's going to be used as a growth regulator. You know it's going to be used as a pesticide. All 3 of those are going to get you in trouble. And the way they're going to get you in trouble now is the states are going to use this guidance. And they're going to regulate on this guidance. And they're going to report it to the regions, and then they're going to come after you. Farm Bill didn't really help. You read this definition, substance or microorganism that when applied to seeds, plants, or rhizophere stimulates natural processes to enhance or benefit nutrient uptake, fertilizer, nutrient efficiency, tolerance to abiotic stress. I think this is USDA because they don't want their drought-tolerant crops to be, regulated under FIFRA. Or quality and yield. Okay, we can kind of use that one. This is stolen from David Boudreau, who's a Biostudio Coalition. What I wanted to show here is look at seaweed and look at humic acid. At 69% of the market, that would be not a problem if that stupid sentence is gone. That one sentence. So anyway, this is just reiterating what I said of the identify examples of the claims, and we just talked about why. They're either physiological effects or nutrient. If they're nutrient, they're non-PGR. If they're physiological, they're PGR. I put identify plant regulator active ingredients in brackets because this slide is stolen from Russell Jones's EPA presentation at the San Diego meeting, and he didn't have that in there. But it's also part of that guidance under those enforcement policies I was telling you about. That's why that's in there. And here's what it's going to be used for most, is they're going to use it for regulatory action, especially for fertilizer labels that come in. And fertilizer, they're going to read and see if they have any of these chemicals in it, and they're going to look closely at the claims on it. But the point is, and what was really missing in the comments, is people think this is proposed guidance. It's not. It's to help you in parentheses, but there's no new rules here. Whether it's adopted or not isn't going to change whether or not it's enforced, because it's being enforced now, just this way. So, Ag Secretary to submit a report to identify potential regulatory and legislative reforms. Just take the sentence out. It's not that hard. One sentence. This is also from Russell's slide. May include development of a plant stimulant product verification program. We don't need any more agency task forces. Proposed definition for plant biostimulants, who cares? They've already defined the growth regulator in FIFRA. Okay, if it's a duck and you call it a pig or a cow, it's still a duck. So there's really no need for that either. We just need to clean up that one sentence, and that takes care of most of the problems, and then look at the others on a case-by-case basis.